Well, welcome back to what is now episode 18 in a year gardening, following my exploits in the garden through this year of 2020. And I'm out here in the front garden with my lovely wildflowers, and we're going to start today by planting out one of the borders. And we've got some echinops and some various other plants that we've been growing in the greenhouse to plant and fill out. And we had a little trip to a local B&Q. We've got 3 fuchsias to plant out, and then I've got some night scented stocks as well, and a couple of other little bits of bedding to give ourselves a nice little border when we're sitting here in the front garden that we can enjoy. Once we've done that, I'm going to go through to the courtyard garden. I'm going to show you the levelling process for getting the wonderful level for the slabs, getting some sand down and fixing those, and then a few more jobs in the main garden. Then I'm going to also be taking some green wood cuttings of the forsythia bush, and I'll show you how I root those with my own rooting compound. So there's lots to get on with in today's show, but what we're going to do is we're going to start with the planting up of this border in the front garden. Well, here we are. I've placed out the 3 fuchsias in their pots, and I'm just going to dig those into the ground. Now, I've been working some compost into this soil. It is pretty dry, pretty horrible, so these plants that I'm putting in today are going to really need good feeding, plenty of water, but I'm pretty certain I can do that. So I'm going to start with this little baby here and just dig ourselves a little hole. Obviously, where the water is coming out of the pot, it's leaving us a pretty good mark of where the size of the hole should be. Need to pop the plant right into the ground in the pot so we can see that we've got the right size hole. Happy with that. So we'll just lift these out. Plenty of root on there. And then we'll just work the soil back in around this. And we'll repeat that for the other 2 fuchsias. The next thing I want to do is to bring in some real character with some echinops, and the echinops are here, so we'll just pop that into the water for a moment just to make sure we've got plenty of water in there. And these plants have been growing too long inside now, far too long, and they do need to get out and enjoy themselves. So we need to break this out of its pot. Far too much root on there, really. We're just going to split that slightly, give it a bit more growth chance there. And it sounds like we've got a little bit of thunder in the background there, so maybe the rain's going to be coming back. So there's going to be a nice powerful plant there. This little baby out of its pot. There we go. Pop that in here. And again, we'll just bring the soil in nice and firm around here. Make sure the roots have got a good start. So I'll put another couple of echinops in over there. Now, something else that I've got here, and I'm just going to lift a few of these out and split them up a little. are some night scented stock seedlings. And I'm going to pop these in just into some small clumps in the ground. Just break them up. We'll get, say, 3 clumps here. They're very small, delicate little plants. They have such a beautiful scent. And all I'm going to do here is just make a little hole. This ground is so horrible. But we'll make a little hole there, pop those in together. The only other thing that I'm going to just show you here now, I'm just going to pop some of the Aspella, which is just summer bedding. And when I'm doing the summer bedding like this, I'm just going to make a little trench along here to allow the plants to form a nice little pattern. Oh, this ground is so horrible. I do apologise, plants, for putting you into it, but the more we work the ground, the better it's going to be. So there we have a nice little trench coming along the front here. Lovely. And what we will do then is we'll just pop in a few of these. I'm just going to lay them into their positions roughly. So there, and there, and there. I think we might be lucky and just beat the main part of this storm that's coming in at the moment. That'd be our first one, to actually get out of the rain. But, so there we go. There, and I'm just going to pop another one right on the end here. Separate that off there. And that one will go here. Then I'm just going to take some of the compost they were growing in to pop inside there. I mean, there is compost has been worked into this ground, as I said, but always best to have a little bit more of the nutrient for them. So there we go. Now all I'm going to do is bring them up and work the soil into place. Bring it up, work the soil into place. Now the most important thing for me to do now, even though it looks like we've got a bit of a thunderstorm coming, is to get this lot watered. And I'm sure it's going to really give us a lovely summer display. Right, so I think it's time to move on and get out into the courtyard garden. Just to give you a little update from this courtyard garden and what I've been doing. So I've been trying to level the ground here. Now from the fence to the summer house there's a fall of around about 450 mil, 18 inches, and that's got to be leveled out. So I've been bringing some soil up from the bottom of the garden, leveling this through, getting it level, and then laying down a weed suppressing membrane. Then I'm putting some sharp sand on and just laying the slabs in place. Then letting the rain and the weather come through, make it slightly uneven to the way it is so that I can then get my levels in a week or so's time. Then mix some cement with the sharp sand and do the finished surface. And so this will take me another couple of days because I've still got a lot of soil to bring up and get the level, but I'm sure it's going to be worth it in the end when we can actually start using this area. And what a great difference it's going to be from those first few shots that I showed you of the utility garden back in January, February time, and what a mess it was then, to the thing of rather pleasantness that it is going to become. Okay, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to take you down to the garden and show you some greenwood cuttings and how I go about making my cuttings. Well, here I am in the main shrub and herbaceous border, and here we have a rather nice forsythia which flowers very early in the year, lovely yellow flowers. What we're going to do now is we're going to make some new plants. We're going to do some propagation, so we need to find a nice shoot that is going to give us the opportunity to grow some new plants. So I'm going to take this from here and I'm going to cut it just above a leaf on here, but then I'm going to trim that back to just below a leaf there, and that's what I'm going to be using. And I'm going to take 2 or 3 here, so I'm taking it above the leaf for the cutting and then below the leaf here, and we'll just take 1 more. And I pop my shears down here, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to preserve the moisture in these cuttings by popping them into a plastic bag, and then pop those into my pocket, and we'll go down to the greenhouse and we'll sort out what we do next. Well, here I am back in the greenhouse now with the cuttings, pot of compost and some rooting agents. So we'll go through that as we go through putting these cuttings through what little process we've got to do to get them into the pot and start forming some new plants. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to take these one at a time out of the polythene, because it is very, very warm in here, and you'll notice we have got quite a few leaves on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off the bottom leaves, up the stalk here, because we want the energy going into here making some new roots. We don't want the energy going into producing the leaves. Then with the top few leaves, I'm going to just cut those here, and then I'm going to take out the growing tip. So we have got a reduced area. I'm going to make this one a little bit smaller. There, a reduced area here. Now what I have got is I have got some growing compound. First of all, in the jug here, I have basically 1 cup of warm water and half a teaspoon of honey mixed together, and I'm just going to dip that firstly into here. Then in my second pot here, the little secret, I have some ground cinnamon bark, and we will just again rub the root into the bottom of that so that some of that just sticks onto that wound. These are natural antiseptics, and we will just pop that down inside here, just down the edge. Now I've watered this, and I will be sealing this pot, and I will be putting it into a cooler place. The greenhouse is going to be too warm for it at the moment. It's going to be a cooler place, and I'm going to do the same process with the other 2 cuttings. Well, there we have our 3 cuttings nicely in their pot, ready to go. What we have done with the honey, and remember it's got to be no more than half a teaspoonful of honey to a cup of warm water. We don't really want to encourage ants to come to the pots and make it too sweet. So what we've done with the honey water and with the crushed cinnamon bark is we've applied an antiseptic and a little bit of a stimulant to these plants to encourage them to grow. They will naturally form over the next week or so their own growing hormones, and they will start to root. So I'm going to cover those and put them into my cool shed, and then the water that is already in there will help them to grow. So I just take my bag and place that over the top to keep the moisture in. It's going to be cooler than outside here, but not cold. It's just going to be enough to stimulate these plants into growth, and in a week or so's time I'll take the bag off. Well, now it's time to lift my garlic. It's been dying back now, and so it's time to get it lifted and to dry, and so we can keep it. Got some nice size garlic this year, and you've got to remember this was just grown from cloves of garlic that I grew last year, so you know, I'll probably put fresh in for next year. This is looking quite lovely. When you're lifting your garlic, just remember, keep these roots nicely intact on the bottom. Preserves their life. Oh, need to fix that as well. There we go. That's lovely. We'll get all of this lifted out, and then I'll show you where I'm going to be putting that to store. Well, that's all my garlic up, and that ground won't be staying idle for long. I'll put some more nutrients into the ground, get that dug, and I've got some more seedlings to plant out there for a later crop this year. What I'm now going to do with my garlic is I'm just going to lay it out to dry. I'm going to put that on the shelf here. And I'll just put it so that each bulb is separate. It'll be nice and dry here. And then once that's all dried off and rotted back and cleaned itself up, we will remove the foliage and have that ready for the kitchen, which is the best place to have your garlic. And we've got quite a nice crop here, so I'm going to finish doing that now. I'll show you what I'm doing outside. Well, there is now a fantastic smell of garlic in the greenhouse, and what I'm going to do now, I've just prepared this soil here, and I've got some more celeriac seedlings that I'm going to be popping in here. So with a few more nutrients, these are going to be quite happy in there, I hope. And so we'll just start putting these in. And I'm going to put these in about 8 to 10 inches apart, just to give them a nice chance of expanding and growing nicely. Now, even though it was raining earlier this morning, this soil is amazingly dry. I can't really understand what is going on. That's a bit of a smaller one there. Get one in just towards the end here. Again, I've got another small one there. We'll just pop that nicely in there. And then we'll do the same width-wise again, so we can see where our plants are going to be. This is an absolutely gorgeous vegetable with a lovely aniseedy flavour. Just something out of this world. Now, as this grows, you tend to strip the lower leaves, and we'll show you that in due course. We've got some quite healthy looking plants here. And I'll just carry on putting the rest of those out now. Well, what a beautiful day. And I've just been sitting here having a little bit of a think. And the question I've been asking myself is, what is a garden? What do I actually really want from the garden? Quite a deep and meaningful question to ask myself. So I'm going to sit down with a pen and paper and really work out what I want this to be. Okay, so you can see the blue broom in place there. Now that is where there will be a small stone feature. It'll be around about 2 to 3 foot high and will hold a head of water, and that head of water will feed a stream that will run down the garden. I'll just show you from this point, running out along the edge of the bed here, running down across this section of grass here, and eventually going out where the blue bucket is underneath the fence to feed a small pond which will hold the reservoir of water to run the stream. Then at this point just here there will be a wooden footbridge running across the stream. It's going to be a nice little feature. I'm then going to start planting out some palms and some ferns, which are nice architectural plants. The stone header at the top here will still be a feature that I can plant some really nice ivies and some succulent plants into to give that some character. But all of this wall will disappear. The concrete base I will use over this side of the garden here to start levelling out a small area of the garden that we can use as a soft sort of patio area. Well, that brings me to the end of yet another episode of A Year Gardening, and we're now in the first week of July, so 6 months passed since I started this year's project of recording the garden, and quite a lot has happened. I think we might have to take a few clips out of some of the older episodes and put them in so we can do a little bit of comparison. However, today we have seen us plant up the front garden with another border, a few fuchsias and some echinops and some bedding flowers in there. I've shown you a little bit of what I'm doing around in the courtyard garden. We've taken some greenwood cuttings of the fuchsia and got those potted out, and most excitingly I've explained a little bit of what I'm going to be doing in the back garden. So the main thing with this project now is it's not something for other people to look at, although they might enjoy it. It's something for me, and I've realised now that that is the big difference. The thing that I want the garden to be is not necessarily for other people first. It's for me first, for my wife first, and then if other people like it, that is a bonus. If they don't, it's still what we want. So happy days. I'm looking forward now to getting on and starting the work that will need to be done. But before I can actually really do much on the installation side of things, I've got to get the electrics laid out and an electrician in to sort all of that out. So that is going to be done over the next week to 10 days. We'll get the area dug out for the stream. I will probably just leave it shallower around the where the bridge is going to go for the time being, so that I can walk through until a bridge arrives and I can use over the top of it. But I need to get the general shape cut and do a water test so that the flow is going to be right. Once I've done that, I've already started digging out at the back where the The pool is going to be where the pump will be to feed it, so that's all going to be great fun. And we've had a little measure up. The stream itself is going to be around about 8 or 9 metres long, so there's quite a lot to do on that, but I'm sure the sound of that water is going to be absolutely superb. So it just leaves me to say thank you very, very much for joining me again, and your company on this journey is fantastic, and every new subscriber that comes on brings a big smile to my face. It just means to say that there must be something that I'm doing right, and as always your comments and viewpoints are really, really welcome, and I love getting those emails and comments through. In the next episode we'll be joined by Lara Louise, hopefully, and we'll have a little chat. Her mum has just sent me a picture of a courgette that she has grown. I'm not going to show it on here because I'm totally humiliated and embarrassed having a courgette growing the size of a marrow, but she's doing exceptionally well for a young girl, for any gardener actually, and she's putting a lot of us to shame. So we'll have a little chat with her about what she's doing, how she's enjoying her garden. Well, that just leaves me to say I'm off now, but I'm going to be off with a big smile on my face and a nice little glass of Shiraz. So until next time, stay well, stay safe, stay happy. Cheers. Ah.